Welcome, one and all, to the final show of the Bituation Room in 2025. So good to have you here. So glad you decided to press play. So glad you decided to make this your last podcast you listen to before 2026, when everything will be better and we will rise up en masse and take control of our country, nay, the world, from the wicked 1%. Thank you so much for being here, for catching me live if you are here live, sending those super chats and last minute licks of love as I will be reading them as we go through this hour and change of show. There is so much to get to, of course. It's going to be little old me, later joined by Senate candidate in Michigan, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, who is running on an unapologetic Medicare for All platform. Again, unapologetically as well, speaking out for the Palestinian people. I'm so excited to have him on the show. And these are the kinds of candidates that we need. And I am curious to hear his plans for not if, but when he gets into office and making Medicare for All a reality. Thank you again, also, everyone, for being here. We're going to talk about Epstein stuff. Sorry, got to. Oops, more documents, more photos I can't unsee. Look, I know Trump is scrubbing all these documents, but like, who's scrubbing my brain? Like, who scrubs my mind as I just like see the endless photos of, like bad pedo art? You know what I'm saying? Like, I want that. Who's gonna do the black highlighter in my mind? But no, of course, this is very, very important stuff. And I think it happens to be the undoing of this second term. Not that everything else wouldn't be. We're going to also talk about Turning Point USA, Nicki Minaj throwing down in this house. It's always been Cardi. Y'all have known that for a very long time. And then I'm going to talk about Bari Weiss a little bit. So why don't you like the like button or share the stream? Give this podcast 5 stars. That's how people discover it. And the other thing that's been so momentous, other than having you all to be with in community here on the internet and on the podcast universe, is that I've been able to do long form video and switching it up and not doing as many streams. And I know you're thinking to yourself, like, why would you cut back when there's so much news? Because I don't love to do breaking news all the time. You know what? Look, I understand. That's how you get the clicks. But I prefer to understand and learn a little bit more about an issue. And this time around, it is all of the presidential pardons. That's right. Looking back at this year, it has been really characterized by, number one, sending a bunch of thugs in to disappear people illegally and running roughshod over immigration courts, but also simultaneously pardoning a bunch of actual criminals, whether they be child sex pests and rapists, whether they be white collar criminals, whether they be friends of Donald Trump or Jared Kushner's, whether they be violent insurrectionists on January 6th, who continue to be menaces to society. And there have been more pardons in a year, people, than the first 4 years of Trump's first administration. So his whole first term, more pardons in a year. And again, he needs the criminals. That's why he is openly criming now. I mean, God, these guys, they collect, war crimes for one, financial crimes second. And don't worry though, Chuck Schumer, super equipped to handle it all. So go give that a watch. After you're listening or watching this video, it is called All the President's Criminals. And make sure that you study up and commit these people's images to memory. So, if you cross them, you just cross the street in a dark alley or something like this. Also, I want to let you know that my Christmas gift to you is a discount for supporting this show and those long form 30-minute videos that me and Brent and Paige pour so much love and heart and soul into. 25% off that support. by going to patreon.com/bitchuationroom. Use code HOLIDAYS. Also, if you're watching on Substack, you get 25% off as well. This is like, you can support the show for the year for $35, as little as $35. That, you know, that's like half a meal at Cheesecake Factory, or 1/16 of the grocery shopping that I'm sure we all did. Anyone else host for the holidays and we're like, oh boy, I'm not that rich. I can't just have people over and buy all the food. But anyway, thank you guys so much in advance for your support. It means the world. You can also become a member on YouTube. You get access to a bunch of perks, 20% off our super cute merchandise, and there will be new merch in 2026. I promise. I know I've promised for years now, but I actually promise. Like, this is like a to-do. But there are very, very cute shirts, tote bags, stickers, and you get 20% off when you're a patron, patreon.com/bitchuationroom. You also get discounts on the American Prospect magazine, which I write for every single edition. You also get access to the Ask Me Anythings, which we do every quarter, and you get postscripts from me about those deep dive videos, basically extra commentary, and I'm thinking of rolling out live hangs. So we will see if the live hangs happen in 2026. That I don't know, but look, I think we have to build a little community of Frantifa virtually or however we can. So thank you so much for your support. Appreciate you being there this entire insane year. Truly a year that I think it could be called, the year they played in our faces. The year they all played in our faces, and we acted like it was normal. And let's hope the 2026 is not the year that people act like any of this is normal. Donald Trump's ratings are in the gutter. And, who knows? That hasn't stopped him before, but that is where they are. Thank you guys so much for being here live. Let's get into it. Put your bitch caps on. This is What Are You Bitching About? So Donald Trump and Larry and David Ellison are really getting what they paid for when it comes to the purchase of Skydance and Paramount, the merger that it was approved by Trump. And now they're aiming to go for Time Warner. There's new reporting that that Larry Ellison is going to throw down $40 billion of his own money, again, to create one massive, effectively state-run media. And this is all when Fox News is doing it for free. Murdoch is like, wait a minute, I do this for free. And that's where we're headed. And ultimately, this is why I'm an anti-capitalist, right? Is because capitalism leads to these kinds of mergers, right? Unless it's actually checked, unless there's state power. And yes, the Elizabeth Warrens will be like, no, you can have good capitalism. I'm done with good capitalism. Good capitalism leads to this. And then what happens? It just gets taken over by authoritarians. And now Bari Weiss, who is the editor-in-chief of CBS, but wasn't supposed to be. When she was first assigned this role at CBS, we thought maybe she would just be in the opinion section. Maybe her role would be limited, but no. Bari Weiss, who is a number one notorious liar, also a Zionist. I know those things are sort of interchangeable. She's good friends with the Ellisons. She's a good steward of authoritarians like Trump. The Free Press, which was her outlet before, was sold to CBS and now is just subsumed into one big brand. And she recently killed a story about the Salvadoran detention center, the torture camp known as CECOT. She killed the story on 60 Minutes at the final 11th hour, people. There was a lot of time that she could have looked this over, but she just killed it at the very end. Hilariously, she wasn't smart enough to kill it earlier, because if she'd killed it earlier, she could have stopped CBS sending it to Canada, where it was actually aired, and we did get insights into this gulag like this.
In 2024, he says he waited in Mexico until his scheduled appointment with U.S. Customs and Border Protection in California. During that interview,
They just looked at me and told me I was a danger to society.
You have no criminal record.
I never even got a traffic ticket.
nevertheless, he was detained by customs. He says he spent 6 months locked up in the U.S., waiting for a decision on his asylum case when he was deported. One of 252 Venezuelans sent to CECOT between March and April. Inside, he says their hands and feet were tied, forced to their knees, their heads were shaved.
There was blood everywhere, screams, people crying, people who couldn't take it and were urinating and vomiting on themselves. When you get there, you already know you're in hell. You don't need anyone else to tell you.
He says the guards began savagely beating them with their fists and batons.
Tell me about what they did to you personally.
4 guards grabbed me, and they beat me until I bled, to the point of agony. They knocked our faces against the wall. That was when they broke one of my teeth.
So those are some of the details, just the indiscriminate beating, telling people they're never going to leave, they're never going to see the light of day. Again, these are Venezuelans who had no criminal record. The majority of them, I think there were 8 of like the 242 who had any criminal charges whatsoever. They were going through the proper channels, as we're always told by the right. And let's be real, Democrats also, as long as they go through the proper channels, he was, as many of those Venezuelan immigrants were. A judge has actually recently ordered that these men get their cases heard or sent back to the U.S. where they were residing before they were disappeared into this gulag. So there is ongoing legal ramifications of this, but no matter, because Bari Weiss ran cover for Donald Trump and the Trump administration, sending this internal memo. I'm trying to write to the CBS staff. I'm writing with a specific guidance on what I'd like for us to do to advance the CECOT story. I know you'd all like to see this run as soon as possible, and I feel the same way. But if we run this piece as is, we'd be doing our viewers a disservice. Last month, many outlets, most notably the New York Times, exposed the horrific conditions at CECOT. Our story presents more of these powerful testimonies, and putting these accounts into public record is valuable in and of itself. But if we're going to run another story about a topic that has by now been much covered, we need to advance it. Now, this is journo bullshit speak for like your story. This is classic, like, I'm killing your story because I don't think you're advancing it. Because it's already out there in the public record. People already know, oh my God, yes, they were beaten, they lost teeth, even though they weren't supposed to be sent there, even though by virtue of the fact that they are free, the administration knows that it did something wrong. Yes, they're forced to bathe and drink in the same water and shit in the same water. You know, yes, they were put outside and tortured. Like, what are we doing to advance it? Like, everyone who's ever had like an editor who like secretly didn't like your story kind of knows this angle of like, you didn't advance this bullshit. By the way, this was thoroughly fact-checked, deeply researched by students, Human Rights Watch, students at the UC Berkeley School of Journalism. It had been backwards and forwards corroborated, the accounts of the gentleman who you just heard from. Blah, blah, blah. But if we're going to run another story about how a topic has now been covered, we need to advance it. Among the ways to do so, does anyone in the administration or anyone prominent who defended the use of the Alien Enemies Act now regret it in light of what these Venezuelans endured at CECOT? That's a question I'd like to see asked and answers. Me too, babe. Me too, babe. And then she acknowledges that she acknowledges that actually there has been an effort from CBS to reach out to government officials to get explanations, and that they have ignored their emails and queries. So like, could we get the other side? Yeah, we're trying. So what, are we going to just not run it because the other side isn't presenting, it doesn't want to sit down with us for an interview? She writes, the data we present paints an incongruent picture. Of the 252, Venezuelans sent to CECOT, we say nearly half have no criminal histories. In other words, more than half do have criminal histories. Ooh, 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 you know when you're like on death row, you're like talking to inmates on death row. You know what the real story is? It isn't half of the people who are sitting innocent on death row. It's the people who are guilty on death row. That's the story, not the person about to be murdered, state-sanctioned murdered for a crime they didn't commit. Who cares? I care about the person who did do something heinous. Isn't that? No? Is that anyone else? God, you guys watch, you must read weird stuff. I don't know. We say that only 8 of the 252 have been sentenced in America for violent offenses, but what about charge? My point is that we should include as much as we can, possibly know and understand about these individuals. The other thing I want y'all to know is like many outlets constantly for their writers and their journalists and their producers will ask them for the other side. So if you've worked in a newsroom, if you've pitched a story, if you do these kinds of, packages, you will constantly be asked, let's hear the other side. Let's hear the other side. And you're forced to sometimes, give the other side. And that can easily be, we reached out to the Trump administration for comment. They didn't give us any, right? Like all to say, it's not that no one is trying to not present the other side, but also the other side is evidenced by the actions of the government. I think we know that the other side believes that brown Latinos are just criminals by virtue of being brown Latinos. We see that evidence everywhere. So on and on. The pictures are alarming. This is the pictures of Kristi Noem's trip are alarming, but we should include them. But what does the analysis add? We need to do a better job of explaining the legal rationale by which the administration detained and deported these Venezuelans to CECOT. It's not as simple as Trump invoking the Alien Enemies Act and being able to deport them immediately. And that isn't the administration's argument. The admin has argued in court that the detainees are due judicial review. And we should explain this with a voice arguing that Trump is exceeding his authority under the relevant statute, and that another arguing that he's operating within the bounds of his authority. In other words, we should just even it all out. So we should take the non-existent legal basis that they're using and elevate it up to the same degree as most legal scholars who are like, yeah, including a federal judge who was like, do not deport these men to El Salvador. There's a stay on that. You cannot deport them, and they did it anyway. There's a genuine debate here. Oh my God. Is this like one of your new CBS was feminism worth it debates that you're rolling out now on fucking prime time? I swear to God, all of our parents at some point, anyone who hasn't like cut the cord is going to be like, debate me. Like in 6 months, your uncle or your mom is going to be asking you to debate her. And you'll be like, have you been watching CBS? What's happening? My general view here is that we do our viewers the best service by presenting them with the full context they need to assess the story. In other words, I believe we need to do more reporting. You know what I think you should do, Barry? I think you should ask your viewers to do their own research. I think there should be just a little chyron that says, go to www.google.com and do your own research. I think you should really present that. Look, I understand as the editor-in-chief of a news outlet, that might seem unconventional, but I think Americans are ready for that. I think we're super ready to do our own research, Why do we leave it to you, editor-in-chief of a legacy news outlet, to do the work, Isn't that what democracy is about, is, decentralizing the research? To every American. Put the power of research in your pocket. Go on a heavily censored TikTok under the new ownership of David and Larry Ellison and do your own research then. Wait a little bit because the algorithms aren't going through yet. But once they have partial ownership of TikTok, do your research on TikTok. Yes, Barry. This is so depressing and also really predictable. And look, the buck doesn't stop with Bari Weiss. You think Bari Weiss decided? Hell no. Bari Weiss doesn't decide to do this, but I do think it's funny that This is a woman who's presided over entire news packages where a journalist goes undercover in hijab to like a Muslim conference and goes, look at them. Look, they want to kill the Jews. Like that passes the smell test for Bari Weiss. Just, yeah, put a chick in a hijab and that's investigation. But like this stuff, the 60 minutes, the well vetted, the like months of research piece into something we know took place. That's no, we need to advance the story. We really need to advance the story. But yes, the buck doesn't stop with her. It stops with Trump. Trump picks up the phone. He calls his buddy, David, Larry Ellison in this case, I'm assuming. I'm not sure if David has the same rapport. He calls his bud. Bud calls Bari. And Bari kills the story. This is how it works. And all the brave men and women at CBS just kind of thank their lucky stars that they still have a job. Welcome to media hell, people. Don't say we didn't warn you. This is what happens when media consolidates. This is what happens when media lies. This is what happens when media doesn't give a shit about new voices, young voices, progressive voices, or truth, really. Because, 60 Minutes was an outlier in terms of it being a good program, but like, it's not like people are like, oh, the old CBS is so perfect. No. But that's what happens when everything becomes media becomes a joke, man. And that's what happens when we don't tax billionaires out of existence. So we shall see. There's going to be more fun stuff coming down from Bari. Just you wait. But to give her credit, this was a bigger hit than her entire town hall with Erica Kirk. Who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Who fucking cares about Erica Kirk? Although I will be talking about her, but only in the context of Nicki Minaj. Guys, look, the holidays are here. Hanukkah ended. Christmas is, I don't know, in a couple days. And I don't know about you, but I have been eating nothing but cookies and somehow thinking that's a meal and that's okay and everything's fine. And as many cookies as I give away, I eat. And this is a problem. And I'm also drinking quite a lot, I am like 9 out of the last 10 of my Google searches are just like holiday cocktails, holiday spirits. The point is I'm indulging. And so I am looking forward to a January where we do a little bit of a cleanse. And thanks to our sponsor, Sunset Lake CBD, whose products I truly and deeply love and vouch for, have a they have thoughts. Okay, I'm going to get this right. They are helping us have a dry January by, turning to CBD, turning to our focus gummies, turning to our good night gummies, turning to our relax gummies with reishi mushroom to help us, instead of just hitting the cocktails, hit a little bit of CBD. 20% off your order at sunsetlakecbd.com. Coupon code FRANTIFA, FRANTIFA. Again, tinctures, gummies, smokables, all the things that when you want to reach for a little drinky poos, you're like, you know what? Maybe a gummy. And let me tell you, they're lovely. And there's different dosages and they are so great. You can email them and be like, what do you suggest for this and that? They're really responsive. They also it's third-party tested. They are regeneratively farmed, based in Vermont, vertically integrated, like donate to amazing causes. I know there's a lot of CBD companies out there, but trust me, like these guys are the real deal. They're wonderful to deal with. And I've been so happy to be supported by them. SunsetLakeCBD.com, coupon code FRANTIFA. And before I get into OMB, Moondragon, happy Christmas, Double Eve. Glad to be part of the Frantifa. I love your Year of the Criminals recap and postscript. Thank you, Moondragon. Thank you for your super chat and for being a supporter. Hypno Amber, haven't got a chance to watch, but I'm looking forward to it. Yes. I was going to release it on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day because I was like, people are just kind of chilling on Christmas Day. but no, it's out now for all to see and watch. Noon Mountain, Bari Weiss, CBS is kind of entertaining in a train wreck kind of way. Yeah, I mean, if you put aside the fact that it's just like the immolation of our entire media ecosystem, you know, it's great and it is very entertaining. And we're going to have a lot of content coming out of this. I mean, Bari Weiss really is going to be she's making a splash. She's making a splash. And yes, thank you, Amber, for all the kind words. Jessica Cisneros should have won. Are we talking about against Henry Cuellar? Yeah. Henry Cuellar pardoned and then didn't switch parties, and now Trump is mad, which is amazing. Trump's like, I demand loyalty. And it's like, buddy, it doesn't make a difference. Having a centrist Democrat who's going to vote with you every single time, like, you're fine. You're going to be fine. The instructor said there's not only been block media coverage on CECOT, not a full documentary. Yes, it's true. There have only been smaller packages, and I think not just about CECOT, but so many of the heinous incidences that have taken place under the rubric of ICE and immigration enforcement need to be documented, studied, and yes, long form released about it, if we can still do that. And with that, guys, it's the last Orange Man Bad of the year. This is Matt Leib's voice, by the way. This week on Orange Man Bad, Orange Man has announced the Patriot Games, which is an athletic competition between two people from every state and every territory. Two young people. And many are likening this, obviously, to the Hunger Games. And all I have to say is, I'm begging all the trans people who can hear my voice to get swole and stealth enough to compete in these games. I will personally contribute to your efforts to do that, if only to have the funniest reveal possible. Like, if California doesn't send 2 trans athletes, I don't know what we're doing. Orange Man has decided to pay each service member a warrior dividend of $1,776, or $1,776, in clear deference to the last time America was beholden to a king. The funny thing is, the money isn't new. It's from the big fugly bill that allocated funds to service members for their housing. He's just rewriting it. He's just relabeling it. This is like writing your name on the Christmas present for your dad that your wife picked out. Okay? It's dishonest, but it fools them every time. Orange Man is finally making his dream of an arc. Remember how he was really thirsty for the Arc de Triomphe in Paris? He's making the Arc, an American Arc, a reality. Plans have been drawn up to put an Arc de Trump in DC that will replace the current Arc de Trump, which is just what his ex-wife called his deformed dick. It's unclear where the money will come from or what it will be made of, but sources say funds will likely be taken out of Medicaid and it will be made of bones. It's been a good week for bronze workers nationwide, as Orange Man has ordered his name to be put on the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts in front of Kennedy's name itself. They already did this. It's Trump. It's a Trump John F. Kennedy Center. And it's unclear which member of the Kennedy family is okay with this or signed off on it, but let's just say he was paid off in bushmeat. I think we know what happened. In more bronze news, Orange Man has unveiled his presidential walk of fame near the Oval Office, complete with new plaques that rewrite the biographies of different presidents. Barack Obama is called a divisive president who oversaw the implementation of the Unaffordable Act. It also states that, quote, Obama spied on the 2016 presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump and presided over the creation of the Russia hoax. That's right. Someone had to engrave Russia. Satire is dead, people. Okay? Satire is so dead. All right? This administration will unironically create the Daily Show's Museum of Trump tweets. Remember that one? Comedy's over, okay? Pack it up. We're going back to rubber chickens and whoopee cushions. That's fucking it. That's it. It's a wrap. RFK Jr.'s HHS is trying to change the childhood vaccine schedule recommendation to match that of Denmark's, which has fewer vaccines, which proves the only time the US will take medical advice from Scandinavia is to give people less health care. RFK Jr. is also banning gender-affirming care for minors, as the regime announced it would rescind any funds to hospitals that offer it. And as enraging as that is, let's just remember, he's not taking away your testosterone. He's hoarding it, okay? It is somewhere. It is somewhere. We can get it back. We can take it. Alleged rapist and sex trafficker Andrew Tate got his ass beat in boxing, and many people are laughing at it, but I personally think it shows growth, okay? This was the first time that he punched someone his own size. Progress. And Orange Man Bad's DOD has seized at least 2 Venezuelan oil tankers and is pursuing a third in efforts to reclaim the country's oil Trump said was taken from the United States. White reparations are going great, you guys. They're going great. We're just making up white reparations. And that is Orange Man Mal. Thank you guys so much for enduring a year of Orange Man Bads with a few notable skips. It's always fun to write bad jokes for the people in the audience. Thank you so much for being here. So much happened this week, but let's get into 2 big things. This is the week where. This was the week where the deadline came and went for the DOJ to release all of the Epstein files, okay? All of them, or face contempt of court. Congress, one of the two, both. Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, on Friday, which was a deadline December 19th, said that they weren't going to release all the files. And it was like, oh my God. How would the Trump administration not do this? What? No, really? And then they did. People. They released a bunch of documents with many, many, many redactions, mostly blackened out, many files missing. Many files were there, and then they went missing, and then they came back, and then they went missing again. There were 95,000 photos in these documents. Like, the Epstein really, like, just took the most cursed vacation photos, all right? It's like just the worst fucking, imagine being the developer. Just like, oh, you know, terrible. There were photos of Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, Walter Cronkite, Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, David Copperfield, Mick Jagger, Kevin Spacey, and Winnie the Pooh. Okay? Huge shock. I can never look at his naked crotch the same way again. It's just, I can't believe he was there, you know? Kevin Spacey, you could get. Mick Jagger, you're like, okay. Mick Jagger's been, like, just running from statutory rape, like, allegations for decades. People are like, but he's got the moves. He's got the moves, like, you know? Anyway, there were a lot of photos of Bill Clinton in different kinds of silk shirts. The Clinton people at first put out a very funny statement where they were like, look, there's a very clear difference of who was hanging out with Epstein before they knew all these things about his private life and those who were hanging out after they knew. And it's like, oh my God, buddy, what are you talking about? Before you knew. Before you knew, bitch, is this you? Is this you on a private plane? Sitting with a young blonde girl on your lap? Yeah, you knew, my guy. Now the Clinton folks are saying they should release all the files. They don't care. They are ready to put that man in a bottle and send him off to sea. And my God, it can't come fast enough. Hillary will still be with him, though. She will still stand by your man. Anyway, the point is, fuck Bill Clinton. And fuck Jeffrey Epstein and everyone who had anything to do with him. And one of those people, of course, is our president. And I know that comes as a massive shock. But yes, there are not just files, but photos also of Donald Trump with Epstein, like this one that was in a drawer. That was then, this photo was taken away. Unclear if it's back again. And zooming in, you can see there is Donald Trump here with some scantily clad young women. No idea how young they are, but he's there. Like, this is so stupid. We don't need the files to know that Donald Trump and Jeff Epstein were best friends, okay? They were reportedly best friends. They were best friends. They had a falling out over real estate together. They created beauty pageants for teens and young women, and then use those beauty pageants as hunting grounds, okay? And we don't need files. We just have witness testimony. But speaking of the files, we also know that in, I think it was 96, in the 90s, a victim of Epstein's, Maria Farmer, went to the FBI and said that Epstein had photos of her and her sister that were lewd and were like basically amounted to child abuse materials. And the FBI was like, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, you. Yes. Anyway, just going to tuck that testimony under here and never look at it again for 40 more years. Does that sound? What year is it? 30 more years. Like, they knew. And this was Bill Clinton's FBI. And again, look, whether it was Clinton, whether it was other politicians, the point is Epstein is just not beating these Mossad accusations, not beating the Mossad accusations. Someone was protecting him. Many people were protecting. It's almost like he was an important asset. Almost, but more than that, even if he wasn't a Mossad asset, and I say that with a certain amount of, facetiousness, he was someone who was a high-powered financier who helped many people in office, in academia, Chomsky, in diplomacy or in, foreign diplomats, Ehud Barak, and in the business world, like Bill Gates. So Bill Gates, who famously said, well, he's dead now. Remember that clip? That's my favorite Bill Gates moment. Well, he's dead now. How much younger is Bill Gates' wife than he is? Or his girlfriends? Anyway. So the biggest thing is that yesterday, more files were released. This was Monday, the 22nd. More files were released. And a lot of them had Trump's name in them. Many of them had Trump's name in them, including some revelations that there was more, let's start with this, more plane trips that Trump took with Epstein than previously reported. In January 2020, during Trump's first term, for example, an assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York wrote an internal email about the review of flight records the day before as part of the government's case against Maxwell, who was convicted in 2021 of sex trafficking. Quote, for your situational awareness, wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported, or that we were aware. Aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case, the email states. There were at least 8 flights, the prosecutor wrote, between 1993 and 1996 in which Trump was a passenger. On at least 4 of those flights, Maxwell was also present. Interesting. Now, before we get... let's just name that, like, of course, he was on those flights. Of course, he knew what was going on. He himself said Jeff Epstein likes people who are much, much younger. Where was I going with all this? But, however, this morning, the DOJ is very pissed. They're mad about the documents that they themselves released, that they themselves maybe forgot to look over, that they themselves accidentally put out into the world because they had to, but didn't fully scrub. The Justice Department says some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that it characterized as, quote, unfounded and false. So why do you have them? Are you collecting unfounded and false information? Was the evidence that convicted Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeff Epstein, was that evidence false? I mean, again, we've spoken a little bit, and especially in my latest piece, we've spoken about the coming pardon of Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, if they're saying that some of this stuff is false in the documents they're releasing, then the whole thing could be false, right? Then you could imagine Ghislaine's, lawyers saying, well, if that's false, then all the stuff against me is false, even though I'm in 92,000 of the 95,000 photos found in these documents. So now they're saying the shit that they even vetted, that they released into the world, now that stuff's false. That stuff's false. Here's Donald Trump yesterday, and it's just really unfair and I think disrespectful that he's being asked about Epstein when he's clearly said, I don't want to talk about Epstein. During a press conference where he is announcing a fleet of Navy ships bearing his name. Sorry, nuclear armed Navy ships that will bear his name. Can we focus on the ships? My goodness, let's focus on the good things, not the things that I may or may not have done with one of the biggest sex traffickers in the world.
By the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files, and you can.
Hang on. I got you guys. I got you. I got me.
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their
by
full?
What?
And were you surprised by the number of photos of Bill Clinton in the Epstein files? And can you commit to their full release by the end of the year? Some of the victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for.
Whoa. Slow it down. Is that Donald Trump defending Bill Clinton, his supposed arch nemesis? I mean, I guess that's really Hill. But this is him saying, I think it's terrible. So he can't even lie. Trump has these modes, and this is a mode where he's being very honest about him thinking that it's terrible. The Democrats are leading this charge to release the Epstein files, including some Republicans, and he's defending Bill Clinton. He's not even able to say, and look, I'm not alleging that Bill Clinton did anything, with underage women. I'm not saying he, was part of any of that, but he can't even spare a thought for the victims. He can't even spare a thought for the fact that this is a sex trafficker who you ostensibly don't have, you had a falling out with. You don't like him. But again, he can't throw his people under the bus. And then it leads me to believe, you guys, a month ago maybe, we were talking about these emails between Epstein and his brother that were like, what about those photos of Trump blowing Bubba? And now this defense? I mean, not beating the Trump blowing Bubba allegations. Are we? But there's more.
They give me their photos of me too. Everybody was friendly with this guy.
There's photos of me too. Just waves that away.
Either friendly or not friendly, but he was around. He was all over Palm Beach and other places. The head of Harvard was his best friend, Larry Summers. And Bill Clinton was a friend of his, but everybody was. I actually threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. And as a person that was in Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out. Mar-a-Lago, this is Mar-a-Lago. It's the hottest place I think it's the hottest place in the world, but it's the hottest place in Florida.
Hottest place to poach young women into your, sex trafficking ring. Hottest place.
And everybody would come here. He'd come here. We actually threw him out. But no, I don't like the pictures.
You threw him out. I'm sorry. Quick follow-up, Mr. President. You threw him out. Why did you throw him out? What was he doing? Again, he's not smart enough to paint himself as some kind of, pedo fighting, superhero. As soon as I found out what he did and how he poached Virginia Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago, I threw him out and I said, you cut it out. You stop. Like, he's not even smart enough to get a handle on that. I mean, fucking Pam Bondi's not smart enough. By the way, Pam Bondi is now being threatened with contempt of Congress because she is not fully releasing all of the files. And so much has already been redacted, including the plea deal that Jeffrey Epstein got in, what was it, 98? With then Attorney General Acosta, or former Attorney General Acosta. I don't remember who, but he negotiated. The prosecutor was Acosta. She was the Attorney General at the time of Florida. So Pam Bondi's been running cover for this fucking guy for so long. I swear to God. Get you a Pam Bondi. You know what I'm saying? Hey, sex pest. Do you have just a blonde woman who's dead inside who can just run cover for you for not just years, decades run cover for you? Get you a Pam Bondi. There's a short supply.
Clinton being shown. I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy. He can handle it. But you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein years ago, many years ago, and they're, highly respected bankers and lawyers and others, and they'll end up, because of guys like Massey, who's a real lowlife, whose polls are down to about 9%, by the way, in the great state of Kentucky. If you look at Kentucky, Kentucky is such a great place, but I don't know, they've got a couple of people on there that are very strange in terms of leadership, but Massey's a loser, and he likes it, and then he works with the Democrats. He's just being used by the Democrats, because what this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has.
You surprised?
Yes. Let's go back to talking about the economy. That's definitely a winner. Let's stop talking about Epstein and start talking about how the economy is mirroring other heyday moments in America's recent past. 2020. 2009. Oh, amazing, beautiful moments. Just soaring economy. Like, what the fuck do you want to go back to talking about? Nobody knows what to go back to talking about, because even your, little minions, your stooges, all the influencers, by the way, RIP Bongino from the FBI. He just couldn't take Kash Patel, his little whining voice, his little, Kermit the Frog ass just sitting there. Bongino has a tale to tell. Oh my God. He's trying to shop that around. Bongino's talking to Bari Weiss right now, going like, so how much could I get for this? I mean, what kind of protection can you offer me? Can I go to Israel? Like, it's so fun what's happening behind the scenes. But look, Piers Morgan doesn't have me on his show anymore because I, asked to be compensated for my time, and that's too bad. The point is if you know anyone this holiday season who needs to hear some hard truths about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, I do hope you will mention this to them. And before I bring in my guest, because there's one more aspect of this that I feel like needs to be mentioned, in this new tranche of documents, again, one of the other allegations or, conspiracy theories that's been swirling around, not by me, but people, is that maybe Trump's FBI, which did raid Jeffrey Epstein's home and did imprison Epstein, and then under their watch, Jeff Epstein killed himself, allegedly. Maybe the Trump administration had something to do with that. I mean, what's there to gain by silencing Epstein if you're Trump? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to put together the pieces, but hopefully someone listening is. And there's a little bit of weird evidence that came out in the latest batch of files that the Washington Post reported on when it came to Epstein, which is that hang on, here it is. There was correspondence among prison officials about Epstein's psychological assessments, with discussions about holding him in a special housing unit about 2 weeks before he died. Quote, We have supporting memorandums from the responding officers who indicated they observed inmate Epstein with a makeshift noose around his neck. Oh, I'm sorry, what? So they knew he was maybe going to commit suicide? Yeah, it was like we observed him with a noose. We gave him the noose, but it was crazy that he had one. At one point, the documents indicate prison officials plan to house Epstein in a cell with Cesar Sayak, a fanatical supporter of Trump who in 2019 was sentenced to 20 years in prison after he mailed explosive devices to prominent Democrats and media figures. Why? Why would you put a rabid Trump supporter in the same cell with the one guy who could take Donald Trump down? What would you expect to happen? What would you hope happened? Weird. I don't know. Again, smarter people can put together those connections. I'm not there yet. And lastly, there's something deeply unsettling. And look, if it's Donald Trump writing in Jeffrey Epstein's 50th, happy birthday book with the drawing in an outline of a woman saying there's secrets between enigmas and I'll never tell you what that secret is. You got this letter that Jeffrey Epstein wrote to a one Larry Nasser, the guy who was convicted of serially abusing and assaulting U.S. gymnastics, women's gymnastics members, right? Under the guise of, he was like a doctor. He's a physician. He's serving life. Jeff Epstein writes him a letter that was postmarked just a few days before he died. So postmarked, again, they're not necessarily rushing this letter out. The DOJ is now claiming this letter is false because it was postmarked 3 days after he died. But like, what the fuck? Does this guy have his own like career pigeon? Is he like, I've got a letter for Larry Nasser, take it. Like, that's not how it works. It's it could be postmarked after. Anyway, let's read the letter. It's a little bit disturbing. He writes, as you know by now, I have taken the short route home. Let's see. We shared one thing. He says, good luck. We shared one thing, our love and caring for young ladies and the hope that they reach their full potential. Gross. And then he writes, our president also shares our love of young, nubile girls. And then, when a young beauty walked by, he loved to, quote, grab, snatch, whereas we ended up snatching grub in the mess halls of the system. Our president the president also shares our love of young, nubile girls. When a young beauty walked in, he loved to grab, snatch, whereas we ended up snatching grub in the mess halls of the system. The letter is signed, Life is Unfair, yours, J. Epstein. Hello. Now, of course, why would Donald Trump ever grab snatch? It's not like he admitted to doing that on camera or, as he was being recorded. Also, it is just interesting because every single letter that comes out of a federal prison is going to be screened. That's just going to happen. So this letter was definitely seen by somebody, maybe the FBI, maybe Trump's FBI. Someone decided to postmark it anyway. Someone decided to send it anyway. Or maybe it never was received. I don't know. This is insane. This kind of shit is fucking insane. And I've been saying it all year. But allegedly, I think he did it. I think he did it. I think he did it. Because of course he did. Anyway, let me bring in my guest who absolutely doesn't share what I just said. I'm just putting it out there. He's a physician, an author, a former public health professor, and government official. For the past 2 years, he served as the director of the Department of Health and Human and Veteran Services for Wayne County, Michigan. And now he is running for Senate for the great state of Michigan. Please welcome Dr. Abdul El-Sayed.
Fran, thank you so much for having me. Hard transition there, bro.
Dude, I know. I should have just gone into like some sort of like ad read. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of information we're getting. And, here we are, just sort of like we have to do Christmas knowing that all this stuff is out there.
And it's just the thing that I think I want folks to understand is you don't release the second tranche, the second batch of information into the holidays unless you really, really don't want that much coverage. You wait until everybody's gone away to the holidays and folks aren't going to cover it the same way. So they did this on purpose. And
Yeah.
it is
it's
crazy moment to know that your United States president wanted to hide information about a notorious predator from you for a reason that's got a lot of fingerprints on it. So let's leave that there.
Yeah, and a lot of this has to do with, Democrats like Ro Khanna really stepping up to the plate here. Democrats on the Oversight Committee also, and pulling their Republicans along. I think that, this is a very interesting case of bipartisanship. Thomas Massie is a Republican. Marjorie Greene basically resigned over the Epstein files in protest. There's a real lane here to say, we hold everyone to account. And it's interesting to see the strange bedfellows coming together to do just that.
Who says bipartisanship is dead? But it's also a sad comment that the one bipartisan consensus is that we want to hold pedophile predators accountable. I hope that there's more that we can agree on, but that's a good place to start.
Yeah, it seems like, it's a low bar. But if you can't do that,
the lowest possible bar,
just the lowest possible bar. I want to talk to you because you co-wrote a book about Medicare for all, and you are now running on this platform of Medicare for all in part as you run for Senate. And I'm super excited about your candidacy. And I want to ask you really about, we come back to the lack of universal healthcare in this country time and time again. And especially now, as you see the big, beautiful bill, the big, ugly bill, which is now gutting the very few elements of universal healthcare that this country still has, which is Medicaid and in large part Medicare as well. Universal healthcare and Medicare for all seems like such a catchphrase at this point. It's like, oh, Medicare for all, because we've really made such little progress on it, since Bernie came onto the scene, back in 2015 to talk about it. Give me your thoughts. What is the biggest hurdle to Medicare for all? And what will you do when you are in the Senate, even under a Trump presidency, to advance this important bill?
Well, it's the power of huge corporations that make a huge amounts of money on our healthcare system, watering down and ultimately trying to kill any effort to guarantee healthcare through the federal government, as we do for people over the age of 65. I want to be clear. Universal healthcare is not the same thing as Medicare for all. When people say universal healthcare, they're trying to obfuscate a conversation. They're saying, I want everybody to have healthcare, but they don't want to tell you how. Medicare for all is a very particular thing. I wrote a whole book on what it means. It means that we guarantee healthcare to every single person from the moment they're born to the moment they turn 26, to the moment they get married, hopefully don't get divorced, the moment they get a job, hopefully they don't lose that job, they turn 65, they pass away sweetly in their sleep at the tender age of 120, that they have healthcare in their lives regardless of their circumstances. That's what we're talking about. The reason we call it Medicare for all is because Medicare is a government operated health insurance program for seniors that we could extend to everybody. Now, don't get me wrong. Medicare, as it's built right now, has been watered down by big corporations. So when we say Medicare for all, we mean we want to cover all the gaps in current Medicare. So it covers things like vision, dental, and hearing, doesn't come with so many out-of-pocket costs. And then we want to extend it to everybody. Now, there are, frankly, one reason why people don't believe in this. It's because big corporations make a ton of money on our healthcare system, and those corporations spend a ton of money on our politics. So I'm the only person in my race running on Medicare for all because I'm also the only person in my race who's never taken a dime of health insurance money. Those two things are not a coincidence. They're one and the same. I'm a doctor by training. I rebuilt the health department, led Michigan's largest municipal health department. I know a thing or two about how healthcare works. And I know it's a possible thing, as much as the corporations who make a ton of money off of us want us to believe that it's not. And so the only way we get there is if we're willing to move beyond the corporations that have choked out our healthcare system toward a world where everybody gets the healthcare that they need and deserve, regardless of their ability to pay, regardless of what they do for work, regardless of where they live in the country, that we actually just guarantee this thing, as almost every other Democrat before the 1980s agreed was the thing that we should be doing.
What happened in the 1980s?
In the 1980s, well, Democrats started to play the game of taking corporate money from big corporations. And as they started to take that money, that came with trade-offs. So here's the thing, right? Republicans run on the idea that they want a system where corporations have power. They take corporate money to sell the corporate bottom line, right? Democrats do the opposite. We say we're for people, but then we take corporate money. And so it leaves us in this no person's land where we don't really have anything to say, but we're taking money from one group and then we're trying to win votes from people. And like, we're stuck in this position because we can't really articulate what the actual problem is, which is that corporations have bought and sold our politics for a very long time, which has suppressed our wages and raised our prices in almost every sector of our lives. And so we don't want to say that because the corporations that fund Democratic campaigns would get upset. But we don't also want to go full corporate because that would be, what Republicans do. And so we're stuck. And so since the 1980s, you've seen this like milquetoast Democratic Party that's trying to toe a line that's becoming harder and harder to toe. And so we end up without an actual position. So we say things like universal healthcare without actually saying what it is that we want to do to give you universal healthcare. And when someone comes along and says, maybe we could guarantee healthcare for everybody by, extending the current government healthcare plan for everyone says that's a crazy idea.
And making it better.
Idea. Yeah, exactly. And so I just think that, if you're not taking corporate money, which I never have and never will, it becomes a lot easier to just say, hey, the reason you don't have healthcare is because corporations are screwing you out of healthcare. Also, the reason that you don't have a job is because they figured out how to automate and offshore your job. The reason you can't afford your home is because they're speculating on the housing in your community. All of these things come from the same central issue, which is that we've over-empowered corporations in our lives, and they've bought off our politics to do anything about it.
I mean, you are endorsed by Senator Bernie Sanders, who wants you as his colleague in the Senate. And Sanders has also done an incredible job, just like I think, incoming Mayor Zohran Mamdani has done a good job of really problematizing capitalism at its core. And I think what you're saying is taking the, financial incentive out of healthcare. And from a physician's perspective, what would that mean in terms of care? What does it mean in terms of the bureaucracy you navigate, the ways that you treat your patients? What does it mean, like, concretely for people who are serving their patients and community members to actually have this single payer Medicare for all system?
Friend, you don't even have to problematize capitalism. Like, I'm just not a corporatist. I actually happen to be a capitalist who read about capitalism. And everything you read about capitalism from the people who first described the word capitalism will tell you that the biggest danger to capitalism isn't government regulation. The biggest danger to capitalism is monopoly. And the problem we have right now is that we've left so much of all of these critical industries to these huge corporations that have figured out ways to consolidate themselves, to create, in effect, monopolies in your life that then allow them to suppress wages for workers and raise prices for everybody else. I happen to believe that if you take the financial incentive out of the insurance side of things, you actually open up a lot of opportunity for the healthcare provision side of things. And there's this misnomer that folks who think about this issue not too deeply have, is that that Medicare for all would be government health care. It's not. It's just government health insurance. So the care side of things is still private. Like, you still can go to a private hospital. You still see a doctor who has an incentive to take care of you so that you pay. But the point of that is that you don't have both insurance industry and healthcare industry negotiating for their well-being against you, right? Which is what happens right now. So like, if I go to a doctor, they bill my health insurance. Both of these groups are trying to make money. And where do you think that money comes from? My pocket. So once you have a system where everyone's trying to make money off of you, at some point, you're going to be the ultimate loser and they're going to be winners. So all I'm saying is take the profit motive out of insurance, right? So every single person has guaranteed health insurance through the government, and then allow the healthcare side of things to stay private. That's the only way where you actually get fair competition. Because guess what? If you're uninsured in this system, you're locked out of the market, right? So anybody who is a proponent of capitalism would think, well, that's probably a bad thing. If you're a small provider and you want to provide healthcare in your local community, guess what? You can't negotiate the same way that a huge corporation that owns multiple hospitals can. And so you're locked out too. So the system we have right now is actually anti-market. It's anti-capitalist. And the only way that you could actually make the system work is by making sure that everybody's guaranteed with health insurance. And I say this because a lot of folks who want to defeat Medicare for all will use that misnomer talking point to make it seem like you're talking about a full government takeover of the entire healthcare system. You're not. You're talking about government health insurance that allows the rest of the system to operate in an actual market system that we don't have right now.
So, and the government would be footing the bill and able to negotiate prices just like it can for Medicare currently with those healthcare providers.
That's exactly right. And part of the problem that we have right now is that because both health insurance and healthcare have incentives to make money, of course the prices go up. Of course they do. Because if you're a health insurance, one of the unfortunate aspects of the ACA that I think has been a real problem that we don't talk enough about is that it limited the amount of money that health insurance companies could make to about 20% of the overall price of a bill.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're only going to get 20% of a pie and you want more pie, you want a bigger pie. And so they had no incentive to actually reduce the size of the pie. Under Medicare for All, right, the government health insurance program is negotiating for all of us. And so it can start negotiating on all our behalfs, keeping prices low. And because instead of negotiating every deal on its own terms, so you negotiate better deals for bigger providers, it negotiates the same price for everybody. So if you're a great provider, you can grow and you can benefit in the system. And so it's better for patients in particular, but it's also better for providers as well, because it empowers them to actually start and build their own business in healthcare, which you really can't do right now unless you are a behemoth, which is why you end up having a system where you've got this huge consolidation between hospitals all over the country.
Well, and then you have providers who simply don't accept insurance at all because they are strapped with the bureaucracy of having to file the claim or submit it or whatever it is. And it's like, they're just like, I'm not going to accept it. And I have an experience because I buy my insurance on the ACA marketplace that some people will be like, oh, we don't take ACA marketplace plans. And it's like, what the fuck what are you talking about? Sorry. Like, this is the same. Is my money not good? And it's like, no, it's that they're just discriminating against you, for no reason. They can. They can.
And Fran, I really appreciate you raising that point, because for a lot of people, what's happened is you have this multi-tiered system, right? Depending upon the kind of insurance you have, it lets you in the door or it doesn't. And for a lot of people, if you have a quote unquote lower tier health insurance, if you're on Medicaid or you're on an ACA plan, you might have insurance, but if the providers you want to go to don't accept that insurance, then are you actually insured? And that's left a lot of people out in the cold when it comes to actually getting the care they need. I don't believe that there should ever be second-class healthcare citizens. I believe the care that's provided to everybody's body is worth infinite to them and worth the same on the market. And we should have a system that actually empowers everybody to be an equal healthcare citizen, which is what another aspect of what Medicare for All would do.
I did a 2019 special on MSNBC about Obamacare and the ACA and looking at the massive amounts of limitations and how expensive it is. And now we're in a time where these subsidies have lapsed for, 23 million or more Americans who are seeing their premiums go up. I mean, I think I'm just very curious about this, and I just love that you know so much about it, and I think this is why your candidacy and campaign is so important, because I think the other argument that we should also be making is businesses are being gouged. Like, your workplace is being charged a lot for your healthcare plan that might not even be that good, and how much more money could, and I'm not saying it necessarily would, because of course there would be a certain amount of a fair tax plan, of course, but you might keep more of your salary in your pocket annually when your employer does not have to pay for your health insurance.
I really appreciate that point. I want to be clear. We need to patch and fix the ACA. The ACA did a lot to improve access to people's healthcare. That's really important. But you think about it, we got to climb Mount Everest, and the ACA was base camp. And so right now they're trying to push us off base camp, and we're trying to figure out where we go from here. And so it's important for us to make sure that these subsidies are patched. It's important for us to make sure that the 25 million people who are about to get priced out of their plans actually can afford healthcare next year. That is absolutely critical. But we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can both say that you need to patch the ACA and keep it working, and also fight for Medicare for all. And my point is that it's not enough just to stay on base camp when we know that Everest is right there and that people need and deserve Medicare for all. But to your point, I spent a lot of my time talking to union members all over my state. And one of the most frustrating aspects that union leaders will tell you is that they spend all this time at the negotiating table to fight for a great contract, only to watch local health insurance companies eat up what they just negotiated in premium increases.
Right.
Nobody goes to the negotiating table to bargain on behalf of Blue Cross Blue Shield or whoever the insurer is. They go to bargain on behalf of their members. But when insurance premiums are going up faster than the cost of living generally, which is going up pretty fast, you have a real problem on your hands. And
yes,
I think, unions are one example. Employers generally have the same issue. And
right.
so think about how much more money you could make if your employer wasn't worried about having to pay your premium. And it comes off the top of your paycheck. And so you don't really see it. But it's one of the most important and fastest growing garnishments that hits your paycheck every 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
Yep. No, and I think speaking of unions is super critical and really that's a really, really, really good point, because in addition, it taking that out of the equation is empowering, I think empowering for unions, and also a reason why, I know with SAG, we were talking about, I'm here in LA, and you have to make a certain amount to even qualify for SAG health insurance. There's different tiers even within, certain union membership. And so it is just kind of a way to divide people. And I do want to turn to, you did this video, and I want to play some of it, because there are problems with having private health insurance. And one of those things is medical debt. And I'm curious about your thoughts on how to fix this.
Their struggle with medical debt. How do you handle your medical debt?
I don't have any medical debt.
Why?
Well, Canadian healthcare system is it's free.
Hey friends, I've come to the city of Detroit to get to the very edge of America, because over there, Windsor, Canada. Now, it's not very far. What separates us is a river, but also a whole chasm of political will to guarantee people healthcare that they need and deserve. Because on this side of the river, if you get sick and you don't have insurance, you may not be able to see a doctor at all. You might go to an emergency room and then get hit by the bill, which may cost you your home or worse. On that side, well, let's go see.
I feel like in Canada we're lucky, actually. Yeah. We're a lot luckier than the U.S.
That's not funny.
So you just don't have to pay anything?
We don't have to pay anything.
No debt. You've never had medical debt?
No, not yet.
Anybody in your family have medical debt?
Not that I know of.
But no debt?
Not at all. Yeah. I don't have the same concern about medical health as you have in the States.
This is a crazy thing. So what would you all say if I told you that our medical debt is $225 billion in America?
That's crazy.
For 41 years, I've lived on that side of the river, where people go bankrupt for getting cancer, where people have to choose between whether or not they'll pay their mortgage or they'll pay their healthcare costs. And it's crazy. We don't have to live like this, just a river away. These folks don't worry about medical debt because it doesn't exist. Here in Michigan, we can have nice things too with Medicare for all. Check us out, abdulforsenate.com.
Yes, and a plug for abdulforsenate.com. But I love this. It needs to be stated a million times over. And, I think, Abdul, the Senate is an incredibly powerful body. And the Senate usually protects the interests of, I think, majority of the wealthy. I don't think the Senate is representative of Americans, but I think we need to make it far more so. And to me, choosing to allow Americans to be strapped with medical debt so that they lose their homes, they lose, they become homeless. It's a choice. It is a choice to say, we're going to subject our people to the whims of this industry. We don't care that it destabilizes entire communities and families. So thoughts on medical debt and what your plans are?
When I was director of Health, Human, and Veteran Services in Wayne County, one of the things we realized pretty early was that we ranked number 8 for medical debt nationwide as a county. And one of the things we did is we realized that we could erase it for pennies on the dollar. So we set aside $7 million to erase the $700 million in medical debt in our county. Wow. That's just one county in Michigan. Now think about the collective $225 billion of medical debt. That is more than the GDP of half of the states in the entire country, just in medical debt. 68% of people in our country who get cancer will go bankrupt because of their cancer. That is an insane thing. Like, talk about adding insult to injury, right?
Yep.
Like, we do that as a matter of course in this country. It doesn't have to be that way. We can choose in this country to guarantee people that they will not go bankrupt because they get cancer. And the fact that we haven't done that is fundamentally about protecting the interests of the corporations that benefit off of our system.
Yep.
Pharmaceutical corporations, insurance corporations, hospital corporations, medical device corporations. And look, under Medicare for All, they would still make money. It's just that they wouldn't make exorbitant amounts of money. Their CEOs won't make tens of millions a year.
Right.
And the health insurance industry, right? Like, you just
They'll be
think about
fine. They'll still
They'll
be
be okay.
fine.
So we can do better. And it means that we have to think differently, right? I don't take corporate money for a reason. When I ran back in 2018 for governor, I got spent $300,000 got spent against me by the local health insurance industry, the whole health insurance company, the main player, Blue Cross Blue Shield. $200,000 spent against me by our local utility. And at that point, I understood that the biggest issue in our politics is the way that corporations can dominate our system by buying off elected officials to empower them to rig the system against us.
Yep.
We have to choose that we are not going to allow our politics to be captured by big corporations. That means we have to stand up and we have to fight back, and we need to support campaigns and candidates who are willing to say that we are going to stand up for the people against the power of big industry. And in this race, you know, it's been a fascinating experience. I ran back in 2018. It's been 8 years. And this time around, people are like, you're saying exactly the same thing. I'm like, I know, because it's worse now than it was then. At that point, I used to say, right, Donald Trump himself is not the disease of our politics. He's just the worst symptom of the disease. The disease is the power that corporations have to wield their money against us in our own politics. And you see the worst of it playing out in the healthcare system.
Yeah. And I think, you know, look, I think 2020, there was a glimmer of hope. You know, Bernie was in the primary. He was, you know, just kind of like pulling ahead, and COVID hit. And, you know, for reasons we don't have to, you know, dissect or get into, COVID was clear evidence that we need universal healthcare. We need Medicare for all in this country in so many ways, obviously taking care of sick and injured people. And also we need to rein in late stage unfettered capitalism, as evidenced by, you know, all the ways people were allowed to lost their jobs, were, you know, and then all of the money that like was cashed in on when, you know, rich folks were like, I lost money, government give me money, and they got bailouts, but everyday people didn't get bailouts. So it's like, yes, you might be saying the same things, but you've only been proven more and more right by reality. So I think it's okay that you're saying these same things. I did want to ask you, okay, there's a little bit of news. Donald Trump is rolling out TrumpRx.gov. I'm not joking. TrumpRx.gov. Find your medication for the lowest price coming January 2026. Very regal looking photo of Trump. Very like most interesting man in the world. Trump is now saying that he's negotiated lower drug prices with 14 companies since he just sent the executives letters. There's no terms of agreements that he has revealed to the media about how he's negotiated the prices. We haven't seen the prices come down yet. What is going on? What is your best guess? And then maybe broader thoughts around big pharma.
I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what's going on. I don't think any of us know what's going on. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, this is weird and wild. And I will tell you this, though. I'll tell you what I think is going on. I think this is another opportunity for him to enrich himself and his family on the backs of everybody else. I don't quite know how just yet, but I know that when you're the most powerful person in the world and the president of the United States, you can force people who want to do business to do things that they might not choose to do. And I think for him, it's always been us carrying water as the taxpayers in this country for his personal or his family's benefit. Like, that's been the consistent reality, whether you look at a lot of his policies around tariffs, you look at a lot of his policies around corporations, like crypto. All of it is him making money and his family making money and him using the power of our federal government to do it. So look, I don't know. I'm interested to see exactly what rolls out in 2026, but I want folks to ask, what's the cost of this? Like, what was given on the back end to allow this to happen? And how are we paying the cost? Because there's always a cost. People don't do things for free. So I'm interested to see where it goes. The other point is this: by hooking it to himself, right? We don't have anything that we can stably rely on, right? If you really wanted to negotiate prescription drug prices, what you would do is you would work with Congress to pass a law to empower the federal government to negotiate on our behalf. And that would be something that's stable, that all of us can rely on. But instead, what he's done is he's put his name all over it, like he always does. It's always done by his, noblesse oblige. And it is not something that you can rely on, similar to the tariffs. So whenever it comes to Trump public policy, it's almost always chaotic, it's always ham-fisted, and it's always self-serving to Donald Trump. And so, this probably follows that exact same path.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And I also am thinking, you're taking with one hand and giving with the other. It's the same like, Warriors dividend that he's giving service members, even though like that money was already promised to them, and he's already gutting the VA. So he's like taking with one hand, giving with the other symbolically. So you've already written in all of these cuts to Medicaid inside the big, beautiful bill that you forced in so that you could extend the Trump tax cuts. And now you're like, oh, you'll be able to negotiate with these a few drugs. Like, first of all, I'll believe it when I see it. But second of all, like the cost is coming. People are being gouged elsewhere as well. And speaking of, executives, you were on Biden's Unity Task Force on healthcare. Biden also famously, got over the finish line the negotiation of drug prices for Medicare. Trump rescinded that, and I guess, yes, prefers to go about it, the backdoor way through the executive branch. But maybe any reflections on Biden's presidency when it comes to healthcare and maybe missed opportunities, and thoughts on like where a Democratic president should be going next when it comes to this issue.
Yeah, we spent weeks and weeks with like-minded colleagues helping to craft a platform that isn't what I would have wanted, right? I want Medicare for all, but is something that would have extended healthcare for a lot of people in the context of a pandemic that demonstrated just how exposed all of us were.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so frustrating, I think, about about what we got is that we just didn't get all the way there. Like, he ran on a public option. And, the problem that I have with a public option is that, look, it'd be better than what we have, but it's basically saying that you have the option not to do anything at all. And that's my frustration with a lot of what we've seen out of sort of a milquetoast sort of healthcare policy. And part of the problem that we always have as Democrats is we're always trimming our sails, saying, well, if we ran on exactly what we wanted, maybe we might alienate some people and we might not get elected. And so the problem is that people don't really know what we're about because we're always trimming our own sails. And so to me, it's just say what you're for. Go out there and fight for the thing you need. And the frustration that I have, and I think a lot of people have in public health and healthcare, is that while the administration did accomplish some important things, Medicare drug price negotiation, unfortunately, it was always too little. It was always trimming our own sails. It was always what we cannot do. And I want a Democratic Party that is willing to go out there and fight for what we can do, what we need, and what we deserve. Because say what you will about Donald Trump, dude just goes out and does stuff. And I think for a lot of the public, they look at him and say, well, that's a man who's taking action. I'm like, well, unfortunately, he's taking action. Part of that action is really, really hurting you in ways you don't see. And part of that action is probably illegal. And part of that action is definitely illegal. But you can't fault like the notion that people want government that's taking action. And so I'm just saying, what would it look like for Democrats to run on the courage of our convictions? Yes, you should have guaranteed health care. No, the government shouldn't be weaponizing the idea of immigration to raid preschools. Yes, we can take on the power of corporations. Yes, we need to make sure that you can build and form a union anywhere. No, you should not be worried about whether or not your electricity rates are going to go up because of neighbors that move into your local community. These are all things that like people need Democrats to be willing to stand up and talk about. But unfortunately, we've had our message stolen from us by the corporate money too many Democrats take.
There's another bucket of money that too many Democrats take, and that is money from AIPAC and Israel and the Israeli lobby. As the genocide continues, as this ceasefire has been violated, what is it, like 800 times or something, as people are freezing to death in Gaza, and things like blankets are being prevented from entering the Gaza Strip. one issue that I feel like Democrats don't speak to is the real frustration from really any like independents, Democrats, Republicans now around funding these crimes in Israel. And it really, let's be real, it really is tied to US militarism. Where do you stand on this issue? And what do you hope to do if and when elected?
Yeah, well, I think we need to have the courage of our convictions. What Israel did in Gaza is a genocide. I said it from the jump. I'm not afraid to say it because I think words have meanings. And when people pretend that the murder of 20,000 kids, up to 100,000 people, the decimation of people's homes, their universities, their hospitals, the attempt to move them into neighboring countries because they happen to speak the same language, when people pretend that that's not a genocide, I don't know what it is. And I'm not running for this office to deny truth. I'm running for this office so that our public policy actually follows it. I do not believe that our government money, our tax dollars, should be spent subsidizing genocide. I don't believe it should be spent subsidizing foreign militaries at all. I don't pay my taxes so that another country gets a tank. I pay my taxes so that my kids have healthcare, so that my kids have quality public schools, so that I can live in my community in a way where all of us have dignity. And unfortunately, when our government is spending $22 billion to subsidize a genocide abroad, that also means that our kids are getting robbed of the opportunities that they need in our own communities. And so, I've been clear about this from the jump because it's the truth. And, you got a lot of folks out here hemming and hawing about whether or not it was a genocide. And my question to you is, what is it about your politics that precludes you from being able to tell the truth when you see it? And I think folks out there who are making decisions about who they're going to support in elections should be asking, if you don't have the courage to challenge the conventional wisdom in your own party, do you really have the courage to stand up to the likes of a Donald Trump or a corporate CEO or anyone, right? If you're not able to actually speak the truth to your own party. I've been to 70 different cities now. And honestly, no matter where I go, when I talk about the fact that our money should be spent here at home on our kids rather than dropping bombs on other people's kids, it's one of the biggest applause lines I get because people understand the truth. It's not just in places like Dearborn or Dearborn Heights. It's in places like the Upper Peninsula in Houghton, right? Folks understand that that is our tax dollars. That is our money. We should be spending it on us.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's an issue where I guess for me, and I think a lot of voters, like we need people who can say this with their full chest, 10 toes down, and, I'm seeing that one of your, the other people in the race, Mallory McMorrow, recently said, she's not taking AIPAC money and she, does believe it's a genocide. And so it is interesting to see certain politicians like feel compelled to say this and pulled to, that issue. It's good. It's a sign of, a changing tide of public opinion. But when you are in the, the seat of power, I need to know that like you are going to have the backs of the people who voted you in there who really do want to see peace as a way forward. And if you're coming late to this issue, like that doesn't instill a lot of confidence. I'm just speaking, as just what I know and what I hear. I mean, I don't trust people who are like only now saying it's a genocide. I'm like, where have you been?
Yeah. I if you're not compelled by the courage of your convictions, why take this job? I think the thing about leadership is that the job isn't to say what's popular. The job is to make popular what is right. That's the job. So if you can't have the courage to see something and have the moral clarity to articulate it and to try and move public opinion in the direction it should go to match the truth, then I just don't think you're serious about actual public leadership. And I think, unfortunately, right, there is this thing we do with politicians that we expect them to be the last ones there. And I just think we have the opportunity in our politics to be asking, what would it look like if our politicians saw the truth for truth and went out and articulated it and drove public opinion in that direction? Because here's the hard part. The Republican Party, they persuade, but they persuade like on cruelty. I mean, when Donald Trump came down that hideous golden escalator back in 2015, immigration wasn't an issue people were talking about. They kept talking about it and talking about it and talking about it and talking about it to the point now where he's literally weaponized an agency to go and raid preschools over the idea of immigration, right? Giving them rights that no public agency should have. And you're watching as they are tearing apart the Constitution over it. So as Democrats, like when we have truth on our side, why do we wilt when we come to the opportunity of persuading around the truth? You know, we talked about Medicare for all for quite a while. And I want Democrats who are willing to say, I think everybody should have healthcare in this country.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. That's not a hard thing to say. It is a moral truth. So why don't we have the courage to go out and fight for it? And, you know, you're seeing in our race a very clear, consistent pattern. Like I'm kind of saying the thing that I believe because I believe it. You've got another person who's towing the party line 100%. And you got a third person who always gets pulled there. So I've never taken corporate money. Back in 2018, when I ran, I got huge amounts of corporate money spent against me. I didn't take corporate money then because I understood that it was the essential corrupting feature of our politics. And back then, both of my opponents were taking gobs and gobs of corporate money to get elected. And now you've got one person who's still taking corporate money, the other who swore off corporate money 6 months ago because they're running against me, and I'm still saying the same thing. And so, look, moral leadership isn't about getting to the right position. It is about taking others to the right position.
Yeah. I love that you say this because it's something that I think it's the reason Democrats have lost their way. I've heard you say this a lot, and I think we need to say it time and time again that, you know, it is the job of a leader to not, you know, say what's popular, but to make popular what needs to be said. And what needs to be said is that we need Medicare for all. We need to stop funding, you know, Israeli war crimes. Like what needs to be said is what needs to be done and make that popular. Like we're so busy focus testing the centrist opinion and, oh, people don't like trans athletes. Ergo, we must be okay with throwing trans people under the bus, or, you know, we must be okay with throwing Palestinians under the bus. And like, look at how that turned out in 2024. So it's just time and again, there is this lack of clarity and moral conviction that you're talking about, and it fucking doesn't work. Like if it worked, I'd be like, okay, let's just listen to James Carville forever. But it doesn't work. It's not actually bringing them results. And they keep insisting that it is.
Yeah, Fran, I really appreciate you saying that because I think what folks don't understand is that Carville and his ilk come out of a time when people weren't bombarded by content all the time.
Yeah.
And so they were able to manufacture this sort of image of themselves as politicians. And it's part of the reason we're so far down this path because they manufactured this image of people that wasn't actually true.
Yeah.
And I think if there is a silver lining in the cloud of this moment where there's just so much content and so much mis and disinformation, is that people have gotten really good at being able to tell what's manufactured for their consumption and what's real. And I'm just saying that like people are going to see when you're not really about that life, when you're not really honest, when you're constantly testing and most message and focus grouping and message testing a position. People are going to be able to tell whether or not you really are about it or you're just saying it because it seems to be the thing that seems to be playing. And so you get this like weird moment now where everybody's realized that people are sick and tired of not being able to afford the basic means of a dignified life. They're sick and tired of being having their whole lives built around what's good for the corporations that raid their pockets rather than what's good for them. And so now what you have is like this like more aggressive, angry version of centrism. I'm like, oh yeah, so they're really mad, but like, are they really mad about a solution? Like, you know, can you get passionate about a public option?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of weird. And so you see the place where the coaching and the message miss, but like some folks are better at being coached and like really delivering the message. And some folks have been about it. So I'm just encouraging people to like, ask yourself, like, is the message, is it meeting the passion? Because passion can be coached. Message, that's a matter of truth.
Yeah. I do have to ask you this last question before I let you go, which is about, you know, we are seeing Senate Democrats really try to make cryptocurrency okay by saying they can work with the crypto lobbies and crypto industries. Even though the, you know, likes of Mark Andreessen and David Horowitz and all the crypto guys are such clear fascists and have thrown down with Trump. Your thoughts on crypto? I mean, look, there are other Democrats that are running for Senate right now who've recently announced who have notoriously taken a lot from the crypto lobby. Give me your take on this industry.
Yeah, so I don't take money from any lobby in any corporation. And look, I think that in some respects, the question to me is prove out your hypothesis. The best argument I've heard for crypto is that crypto has the potential to facilitate transactions in ways that take out the intermediary of the banking industry. And
Right.
we asked the banking industry to do a lot of things around regulating money, making sure that bad people aren't moving money in the worst kind of ways. And they're saying we can do the same thing, but we can do it without this middleman that has been a really problematic industry. I'm like, okay, that's a fair argument. Now prove it out to me, because there's a lot of shady shit that people also do using crypto. So I'm not taking their money. I'm not interested in their contributions. I'm not asking anybody who's not an individual out there to fund my campaign. And so I want to be a fair arbiter. If that is a fair argument you made, show me how that works,
Yeah.
and show me that this isn't a smokescreen for a lot of folks to pump and dump and build shit coins in ways
Right.
that take a lot of folks' money in ways that sold them a dream and ended up costing them a nightmare. And so,
Right. And you can't, and you should, if you are an industry that is new, you shouldn't be able to advance to stage 2 or 3 or 4 without, being held accountable for this stage 1 rollout where you've defrauded all these people and all. Like that's not how industry should work. That's not how anything should work.
And I'm sensitive to the idea that they're like, look, the stories that make the news are the ones about the worst possible people, the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world,
Right.
the Trump coin folks of the world. What is it? Trump World Financial, whatever it is.
Yes, World
Right,
Liberty
like,
Financial.
World Liberty Financial. Thank you. Look, I'm sensitive to that. Like, you're going to get a fair arbiter with me, but I'm also not bought off by the industry. So, I want to call balls and strikes. If you think
Right.
that you can improve the speed, efficiency, and accuracy of financial transactions by disintermediating an industry that has been problematic in the past, prove that out to me. And if we can do that, then I want legislation that is going to protect the positive use case and protect people from all of the negative use cases that we've all heard.
Right.
But I'm also just not going to take your money, because too often, right, we've watched as that has been used to excuse the worst possible folks. And the worry that I have is that, like, when you're trying to do something legitimate, you have a responsibility to differentiate yourself from the folks who use the same technology to do illegitimate things. And I worry that there's been this embrace of like the Trumps and all of their shady stuff. And I'm like, yo, like if you're serious about this, these are the worst possible people to get in bed with.
Yes.
And I understand that this is the president of the United States. He's got a lot of power and you want a public policy that protects you, but you also have a responsibility to prove to everyone else that like he is not the spokesperson for your industry. Cause like that's the biggest shyster I've ever seen. And when he's using Trump coin to do a lot of shady transactions and to create opportunities for folks to like openly bribe him, I think you got a responsibility to say, nope, that's not what we're trying to do here, and to stand up against him. Otherwise, like, don't be surprised when people tar and feather you with the exact same implements. And so, look, my point is there's a fair argument for why this could offer a good use case. I want to be convinced that that's what folks are trying to do. In the interim, I see a lot of people using this to do a lot of shady shit, and I think we have a responsibility to protect people from that.
Agreed. AbdulForSenate.com is the website. Again, powered by people like you. How can people get involved? What are you asking folks to do?
So a couple of things. Number one, sign up to volunteer. We are an organizing campaign, and we need you out there knocking doors, sending messages, reaching out via phone bank. You can do that from all over the country. But number two, I've got a huge deadline coming up on the 31st. And if you can chip us off $5, $10, that really does go a long way. Like I said, I don't take corporate money. I am the only candidate in my race who never has and never will. And so I rely on everyday folks. Join the 60,000 people or so who've already donated to this campaign from all over my state and all over our country. Be a part of this. If you can do like a $5 recurring, I would deeply, deeply appreciate it. And of course, Fran, it was really a lot of fun getting to talk about healthcare and to talk about what it looks like to build a foreign policy that's dignifying of people, what it looks like to stand up to some of the worst actors in the corporate world. I'm really grateful for the work that you do every day and honored to get to join you.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was really a pleasure. Thanks for giving so much of your time, and Happy New Year. Happy holidays.
Happy New Year and happy holidays to you.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. Rachel Atwood is saying Dr. El-Sayed could be on Grey's Anatomy or ER. Yes, I'm sure that is the fallback plan. No. And yeah, Soccer Pizza. This is a smart dude who knows how to talk. Yeah, it's almost like we need smart people in the Senate who have lived this. Like, this is my thing about actually having people who literally wrote the book on Medicare for all, even though Bernie said he did. And someone who was a physician, understands what that's like, understands what people need. This is what we need. So abdulforsenate.com, you guys, you heard the man. Get it in before the 31st. Support this candidacy, make the calls. He's going to need it because this is there's a three-way race. There is a centrist candidate that's Pelosi backed. There is a progressive candidate, again, a little bit of a Johnny come lately on certain issues, but there is one who is has been in the lead. So let's go Michigan. We need this. And I think this is a relevant comment. All I want for Christmas is a hashtag free Luigi, says Ronan Bellin. I mean, we didn't even talk about Luigi. We're living in a time where most people are empathetic to a man who took out, or allegedly took out, a healthcare executive. Want to know how the U.S. is doing when it comes to healthcare and private, how we feel about private insurance? We're okay with taking out executives. Like, we're not well. We are not well. And the last thing I wanted to say about, Abdul was not able to talk to me about this, but I do think that so much of the Maha insanity that we are being subjected to is because people don't have access to doctors. It's because you don't have your family doctor, your community doctor. People switch doctors, you lose your insurance, you go to somebody new. There's no trust built. And so you go to the internet and you go to your wellness influencer and you get poison pilled because you think that, big pharma's out to get you. And it's like, no, they do want money, but they're not out to like sicken you with vaccines. You know what I'm saying? But all of this is tied in. It is such a ripe territory, and we've talked about this on the show before, such a ripe territory and terrain for bad faith actors and grifters and real like anti-science psychos to come in and, lie to y'all. But anywho, we have one more story that I have to get to because it is really funny. And it's Christmas, guys. It's Christmas. Let's just keep it going. Because the Turning Point USA, with its newly minted, very unfit CEO, Erica Kirk, who is the mother of two children, she thinks. She's not sure. We're not sure where they are. They might be full-grown adults at this point. She hadn't seen them in weeks. Erica Kirk oversaw quite a flashy America Fest, which is Turning Point USA's like annual conference, America Fest. And she came out first day. She is dressed all in. Look, I'm not about to be like this. She should probably not have worn that. But, she's not taking mourning super seriously. She's in full gold sequins. There's pyrotechnics all around her. It feels a little disrespectful, but again, people grieve in weird ways. The fest started out kind of interestingly. Ben Shapiro went scorched earth on Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Candace Owens, who has, after a meeting with Erica Kirk, has decided to cool the jets on the whole Turning Point killed Charlie Kirk thing. Russell Brand was there. Russell Brand has some new rape allegations. That's fun. I think the total's like 7 now. He was talking about Jesus, by the way, in case he's turned to God, turned to Israel, turned to God. There's just 2 people you turn to when you're backed into a corner of your own sex crimes. There was a replica of Charlie Kirk's death scene. The tent in which he was murdered in, there you could go in there and take selfies. And I think we should do it. Like, I think the left should absolutely recreate that tent. Let's go. Let's turn it into like a little wishing well. Throw a penny in. You know what I'm saying? Spare a thought. If they're not taking this man's death seriously, no one else should. Like, if ICE or CBP found a replica of where Charlie Kirk was murdered on your phone, you probably wouldn't be allowed to travel. You know, like that's the level of like lack of care. But anyway, the best point of this whole this whole America Fest was Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj has been crashing out a lot lately. She I think spiraled after Cardi B released a new album for some reason. And she started throwing a lot of crap around, started talking a lot of shit, and then decided to uplift the cause of Christian Nigerians who are allegedly, but are not, under attack by Boko Haram. She's claiming, just like the administration is claiming, that they're under attack. She quote tweets Trump officials about the attack on Nigerians. Thank you, Donald Trump. This is amazing. She gets the invite to go speak on behalf of Christians in Nigeria. She's not from Nigeria, y'all. I think her name might be like Igbo, but like she's not Nigerian. She's from Trinidad, Tobago. She's from the West Indies. Like she's not Nigerian. Anyway, so this has been escalating. Nicki Minaj is elevating herself as MAGA's latest, token black woman, there to throw all other people under the bus in exchange for these kinds of moments. And there was a moment that even caught the eye of JD Vance, our vice president. And this was when Nicki is basically saying that we have disparaged white women, that we've disparaged white beauty. And she's asked a question about young black girls, and she immediately turns it into a heralding of white girls and why lifting up black women in her mind has meant disparaging white women's beauty. So she's here to reclaim white women's beauty. Take a look.
We were not being represented and not being admired for our beauty. If we felt like that as black women, why would we want to do that to other women? Amen. Why would we now need to make other people downplay their beauty so that we can feel, no, that's not how it works. I don't need someone with blonde hair and blue eyes to downplay their beauty because I know my beauty. Do you understand? It doesn't bother me that a woman feels and says that she's beautiful. Amen. Why shouldn't she feel that? Why have we gotten to a point where certain colors or certain kinds of people have to be afraid of loving themselves and loving the way they look? Mm-hmm. Like, isn't that wild?
Okay. Oh my God. I mean, this is coming from someone who has had a lot of surgery. I'm not trying to judge, has had a lot of surgery, and let's be real, is like 3 shades lighter than she used to be 3 decades ago. Like, let's call it what. Okay. So here we're getting, but she's got a point. I mean, guys, how many of you remember when Black Lives Matter demonstrators were talking about how white women really need to start, dirtying their hair and putting, making themselves look frumpy in order to make space for black beauty? By the way, this is a question about like young black women, and she immediately makes it about white women being disparaged. Like, in no world did this happen. I don't understand what's going on. But like, I also feel like this is a little bit of a like reference to Sydney Sweeney. Like, don't you feel like there's a little bit of a like, Sydney, I got you. Like, I feel like that's coming here, especially 2025. And everyone's like, yeah, I can't help it that I'm blonde and blue eyed and ergo beautiful. Thank you. Woman who's definitely not done surgeries to make herself look whiter. Like, just so disgusting. However, the message resonated with our vice president, who said this. Nicki Minaj said something at AmFest that was really profound. Nicki Minaj, okay, I swear to God, in what world? the vice president is tweeting. Nicki Minaj said something at AmFest. It was really profound. I'm paraphrasing, but she said, just because I want little black girls to think they're beautiful doesn't mean I need to put down little girls with blonde hair and blue eyes. We all got wrapped up over the last few years in zero-sum thinking. This was because the people who think they rule the world pit us against one another. Nicki Minaj rejects that, and we all should. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to make sure that more young brown babies get swept up by legions of goons for virtue of the fact of being brown. Thank you. Thank you. We will be unconstitutionally stopping you based on the color of your skin. Thank you. We will be stopping and frisking you and disappearing you based on the color of your skin. Thank you. The color of your skin is criminal. Anyway, back to young blonde girls. I swear to God, just so good. Now, JD Vance played another role in the Nicki Minaj drama, which is funny because he didn't comment on this, but just to give you a sense of how unserious Erica Kirk, Turning Point USA, and the entire right is about the murder of Charlie Kirk. Number one, I guess Candace Owens is the only one asking questions about Tyler Robinson. But here is Nicki Minaj saying she's asked a question about young men, which again, let's judge Erica Kirk on a curve, okay? As we talked about last week, she has not been trained for this. She was trained for homemaking, and now all of a sudden she's thrust into the national limelight. So she doesn't really know what she's asking here. She's not, what about young men? How can we help young men? And Nicki Minaj is basically like, well, there's hot young men in office, including assassin JD Vance. Take a look.
And what do you think about for young men? For young men.
And for young men, don't be new scum. Yes, see, dear young men, you have amazing role models like our handsome, dashing president.
I love how that's kind of a laugh line, like, because they all kind of know he looks like a wet sponge.
And you have amazing role models like the assassin JD Vance, our vice president. And when I say that,
Okay, so wait. She says assassin JD Vance because she means like his looks are like, and he's like an assassin. But then she immediately realizes what she said. And instead of like, girl, just power through. You got away with it. Nobody said anything. You couldn't even hear a groan. Just power through. She realizes she's just said assassin JD Vance, which I think we just gave Candace Owens her next conspiracy theory line. But she realizes it and then puts her hand to her mouth and goes, when I say that, And the audience doesn't gasp or isn't like, oh God. No, they give her a fucking laugh line. Take a listen again.
Vance, our vice president. Those like the assassin JD Vance, our vice president. And when I say that,
They're laughing at the line assassin.
Trust me, there's nothing new under the sun that I have not heard, so you're fine.
Erica Kirk is like, don't worry, I will make this less awkward for you. Erica Kirk doesn't even have the dignity to say, wrong choice of words, what were you saying? It's all good. It's like, no, trust me, I've heard everything. I mean, it's fine. I just pissed on his grave yesterday. Did you see how I came out here? It just straight gold and pyrotechnics. Nobody's in mourning. Mostly people are celebrating. Trust me, I've made so much money since his death. It's fine.
Yes, we did.
Someone yells,
men.
we know what you meant.
Trust me, there's nothing new under the sun that I have not heard, so you're fine. Yes, we did. I love you. I love you. You have to laugh about it, truly. I have been called every single thing, and you know what? God is so good, you let it roll right off your back. And this is what's so beautiful about this moment, because if the internet wants to clip it, who cares? I love this woman. She's an amazing woman. She has a soul and a heart for the Lord.
I love this woman. She's an amazing woman. Bitch, you just met her. You just met her. I love this woman. It's okay. Like, you can't even be like, we all say, we all put our foot in our mouths, anyway. Like, make it less awkward. Now you're going like, she's a woman of God. I love her. She can absolutely, it doesn't matter. I love you. How can you love her? I love her more than my husband. It's fine.
And words are words, but I know her heart, and it doesn't even matter. And you say what you want to say because I know your heart. I do not judge that.
Sister. Thank you.
I know your heart. I just met you 30 minutes ago.
For boys, be boys.
Amen.
Be boys. It's okay.
Be boys, guys. Be boys.
Amen.
Be boys. It's okay. Be boys.
Boys, be boys. I had a long time to pause and think about something a little bit more profound, but I'm just going to say, boys, be boys. This is so beautiful. By the way, you see the rumors circulating about Nicki Minaj and the people in her close company, like her husband and her brother. And turns out, yeah, that's true. Her husband is a convicted sex offender, a rapist, who only had additional charges because he forgot to register as a sex offender in California, I believe. Her brother was sentenced to 25 years in prison because he raped an 11-year-old. So yes, boys, be boys. I'm a bastion of supporting, disgusting predators in my immediate vicinity. Like, this is the mother of a boy. Like, this woman is so deeply ill. Like, she is so deeply ill and lost. I really do feel for her because I think she's talented. I don't like the tone of her voice. It's nasally and obnoxious, but her flow is objectively fire, okay? That's the nicest thing I'm gonna say about Nicki Minaj. She sounds awful, but her writing is kind of fucking good, okay? I love female rap. I love her voice. I don't like her voice, but I like her flow. The point is, where are you? Where are you? And it's so sad, too, because you go to MAGA when your star is totally falling. Like, as someone who's like, let's trace this crash out to, like, when Cardi came out with her second album, which is amazing. It's not as good as the first album, but it's a very good album. Like, you go to MAGA when you're like, fuck, I can't come out with another album that's that good. Like, I'm done. I'm cooked. I don't have any more in me. I'm not actually gonna like put out anything that's like of worth. I'm just gonna go to MAGA because they'll always love me no matter what. And by the way, I kind of feel bad for Charlie Kirk, and then I go, no, I don't. I don't feel bad for Charlie Kirk at all. These are the people that the right surrounds themselves with. These are the people that you decided to marry. These are your people who just openly grift and will grift on your grave the moment your body is not even cold. They will be grifting on your grave. They have loyalties that last as fucking 5 minutes, man. It doesn't matter what you said about one another. And yes, there's clips of Charlie Kirk saying that Nicki Minaj is a terrible role model for young women. Erica Kirk doesn't care about that because they got another, failing celebrity to go endorse their bullshit. It's just, it's so beautiful. I really hope there is an afterlife so that Charlie Kirk can be looking up at all of this insanity. You guys, that is not just the show for the day, December 23rd, 2025, but the show for the year. What a year Thank you guys so much. Thanks to you, we've been growing and glowing. Now I just sound like Erica Kirk. And I really, really appreciate it. And by the way, support this show. It's never been a cheaper time to support the Frantifa and the wonderful Paige Omek, who's crushed it all year long, while also being a grad of journalism school. So, hey, pretty amazing. Also, Brent Godin, our newest member of the team, who's been doing the amazing editing on all those deep dives, has been doing the clips, has been doing the social media videos. Couldn't do it without you, Brent. I'm so thankful. And of course, on the podcast ones and twos is Andy Vasoyan. So grateful for y'all. Let's read some comments. Let's do the fart song and let's get out of here. Let's see. CPND, yo, Abdul already got his Senate page set up with policies. How is it that Tallarico and Jasmine haven't done that yet? I checked last week on their page. Yeah, I haven't checked Jasmine Crockett's page, but yes, I was low-key referring to her. Like, you know, I think Abdul has been doing this for a while. He knows what he stands for, and so there is something to be said about that. Now the Zen says the first rule of Epstein Club is don't talk about Epstein Club. Trump got elected by the Epstein Brotherhood in order to protect them. Yeah. I mean, and then it was clear he couldn't do that any longer. We looked at the Bannon emails between him and Epstein, and Bannon was like, man, they're really out to get you. I've never seen this. And it's like, yeah, you know why? It's because he has all this intel on him. Blackfire Sasuk, thanks for your super chat. Yeah, but they're not building concentration camps, right, Jank? Yes, there's a lot of tea to talk about when it comes to your boy Jank over here. He sees every time I talk about him and he gets very upset. So yes, the more I say, I'm just waiting for an apology, my guy. I'm just waiting. Like you and I can do an annual debate. We'll do a Janksgiving, but with Franny Fio. We can talk about it and you can tell me, like, there's nothing preventing those two folks on TYT from having honest and open debates with people to their left, but they don't want to. They don't want to because they're afraid. Roller Dragon, how do we remove these felons from our government? Thank you for being a member for 6 months. Here's the thing I will say. After doing this video about criminals in our government, I mean, criminals who've been pardoned by our government, is that, and the criminals that are doing these things to immigrant communities, we need to have like Nuremberg trials for this moment in American history. Don't let any politician tell you that we can move past it. Don't let any politician tell you that we can continue on as normal, that we shouldn't look past, shouldn't look back, we should look forward, a la Barack Obama when he came into office and refused to hold the Bush administration accountable for their crimes. Dick Cheney died this year without facing any of the music for everything that he did. Not only should we do this for democracy, human rights, and our rule of law, but we should do this because the Trump administration has set up a massive apparatus of known as ICE that is to the tune of, $200 billion they got this year? A huge state-sanctioned apparatus that tracks us and surveils us, has the power to disappear us into privately run prisons without due process, with no cause, can stalk us in our own neighborhoods. And if you think it ends with immigrants, talk to Mahmoud Khalil, talk to people who've been disappeared for writing op-eds on Palestine. It comes for all of us at some point. And so that entire institution of ICE and of DHS needs to be obliterated. It needs to be remade or just gotten rid of. We can have immigration control and courts just fine without DHS. Just fine. Those are the politicians I want to talk to. That's what I want to see, your vision for a post-Trump DHS. And if it exists, I don't know if I'm voting for you. Mark Gogan, Francesca greater than Anna, just giving my monthly reminder that Francesca is so much better than that bleach blonde centrist. Dude, I know, and she's so mad because she could have just been a centrist. It's like, although she is going on CNN more, which I think is very, very fitting. Oh, there's so many wonderful super chats. Rachel Atwood says, was Nicki referring to the Pope? Is she Catholic? In what phrase? What part about like men? I mean, she must hate this Pope because he's like I don't know, progressive. Dustin 3-16. I have a new grandson born in 2025. His parents declined to name him Luigi. I'm disappointed. And Illude giving me some music tips. Listen to Not Exotic by Frosty. Okay. Will do. Thank you so much, the Minas 007. Happy holidays to friend and family, for Antifa and anyone. Max Left is the best. Hypno Amber says, agreed. And Allison Hazelhurst, thank you for your super chat. Thank you for always making fascism fun. Happy holidays. Likewise. Big Jerry FM says, the 2025 elections had a huge Democratic win. Zoran Mamdani becoming New York City mayor. Democratic wins in governor races in Virginia, New Jersey, California passing Prop 50. Huge wins for the left. Agreed. Yes. I would love to interview Bongino. Jermaine 6 says, I would love to interview Bongino. Kathy McIntyre, thank you so much for being a progressive voice that will not back down. Happy holidays to you and your family. Know you. Let's see. Jen Pollock reminding us they weren't just besties, they were business partners. Their business is children and extortion. Epstein didn't steal employees. He stole future profits in those girls. They were competing partners. I think there's a lot of evidence to show that you are correct. And let's give some shout outs during our fart song to people, patrons at $10 or more. And if you are a patron, just know that you have my undying love and gratitude, as well as members on Substack and on YouTube. Here is the fart song. Lauren Pastel, thank you and welcome. Catalonia Stellify. That's a crazy name. Thank you. Larry Hernandez, thank you. Thank you, Ashley Coombs, for upgrading. You can upgrade as well, people. And you get that amazing long fart. Mike Boy for mayor says Kirk is alive. They faked his death so he could go be happy. I love it. Or I hate it. Omega Shenron Dragon, thank you so much for being such an awesome member over on Twitch. Guess my anniversary message didn't work out. Oh well. 26 months, baby. Happy holidays. Love being here, but not loving the lying DOJ is partaking in. Agreed. No, Omega Shenron Dragon, I saw your comment. It's fine, and thank you for being here, and thank all y'all. Remember, we're streaming Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm lining up a banger 2026, but as always, send me your suggestions. Who did you like to see on the show in the last year? Who do you want to see back? Guys, go eat, drink, be merry, and we have each other. We are all we have. Only the people will save the people. And I hope to see you in 2026 in person, online, wherever that might be. I love y'all. You're the best. Remember to, until we see each other next time, fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it, be about it. Bye.